Welcome to You Plant, We Water. I am your host, Dr. Toya Flowers, licensed professional counselor with a doctoral degree in counselor education and supervision, as well as a professor of, guess what? Counseling. And as you know, here on this side of the world, we are focused on talking about our faith, mental health, and how to have the happy, healthy, thriving couple relationships, not only that you deserve, but that God wants for you. Oh, there's been so much happening and so much going on. I want to thank everyone who participated in our first ever Her Women's Conference, Healing, Exhortation, and Restoration. When I tell you that it was a huge success and far exceeded all of our aspirations, expectations, God did his thing, okay? Or as my younger son would say, he did his big one. Must be trying to be cool and hip. But anywho, it was fantastic. And so there's going to be a lot more things coming up with her. We're going to try not to wait till the end of the year, not to wait for an entire year to keep that momentum going. So stay tuned. Relatedly, we have a couples retreat coming up in a few months. So please visit my website, www.drtoyaflowers.com. And that's Dr. just DR. So www.drtoyaflowers.com, where you can find out all kinds of information regarding the show, retreats, upcoming events, you name it. All right, so having said that, I have a very exciting topic for us today, right? And the name of today's show is How to Find a Real Therapist, and even then, how to make sure they're good, right? And by good, I don't mean morally good, I mean good as a good fit for you. And this is a topic we've covered before early on season 1, but it's coming up again in social media because there is a very popular social media influencer who has been using false credentials and claims. And most recently, that information has come out, which is prompting this topic about how do you, as the public, how do you know whether someone is who they say they are, right? At the start of every show, I tell you that I'm a doctor. I tell you that I'm a therapist. How do you know what I'm telling you is true, right? So I'm going to tell you how not only to weed out people like myself, but others, because as not only as a practicing clinician or counselor does this matter, but because I'm also a teacher and professor, we spend a lot of time talking to our students about how important it is to protect the public, because believe it or not, people with the title of therapist or counselor, most people automatically give them a level of, what would I say, like they believe that they have some knowledge or insight that the average person doesn't have. And so they're more inclined to listen to what that person has to say. And if someone is falsely claiming that title, well, there's a lot of harm that can be done. You could do a lot of damage to people, right, who are trusting you. Because when I tell you that talking about mental health and trauma, grief, loss, that stuff is so tricky. And, it takes years of training to do it in a way that is going to help and not mistakenly harm. So we're going to talk about it today. I emailed over a clip. I don't know if we have the clip or not. If so, let me know and we can share that. If we don't, then I'll just talk a little bit about it. But lately, there I am at the top. So lately, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant has been in the news for a couple of reasons. One, there's some question regarding her degree and use of the term doctor, as well as whether or not she's actually a therapist. as has been her claim, right? So she's a beautiful woman. She has said some things that have really resonated. I've listened to her various times. So doesn't mean that, we throw out everything that she's ever shared with us, but at the same time, it's very important that we have accountability to the public. So is the video able to be shown?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. We're in studio, y'all. They're telling me we can show the video.
Doing his,
Uh,
his word, my sheep will know my voice. Even I've earned the title, I have multiple degrees, and I'm not going to prove anything to anybody. My obedience is to God, not to people. And so as long as I'm in his will and I'm serving and I'm doing his, his word, my sheep will know my voice. Even the sheep in wolf clothing. That is not my battle.
Well,
That's
with the
his.
questions that are out there, why not provide the proof of your degree? Why not?
Well, a couple of things, right? I have multiple degrees, and my thing is that my proof isn't something that I have to prove to individuals. My proof is already within my credentials, my degrees, and also more than just my titles, it's in how effective I've been. All of my sessions have been live for the most part. My sessions with Nick Cannon, Cam Newton, Shannon Sharp, B. Simone, they have all been for the world to see. Right? So no one knew who Dr. Bryant was prior to seeing all of my sessions that were live. And they deemed it, as well as I did before they did it, they can't validate me, I validated myself. They deemed it as my work being effective. I am effective at what I do. I'm educated and I'm successful in my lane. And I'll land on this, I created my own lane. And so a lot of times, Marissa, when people see that you created something that maybe they couldn't, admiration turns into envy. And you got to be okay. And you got to be okay with that in that
as an
space.
attack. But I think, and I've gotten this question from many viewers, and I owe it to them in service to them.
Absolutely.
Why not drop doctor from your name if you cannot bring forth that doctoral degree?
So I've already covered this, right? And we're here obviously to talk about my new book. So I've earned the title. I have multiple degrees, and I'm not going to prove anything to anybody. And we're going to leave it just as that. Yeah.
Dr. Cheyenne Bryant.
Baby, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant.
And that's where, and you're standing by that.
Standing by it. Yeah, right. Because I earned it. Absolutely. I've earned the title.
So that is a clip, y'all. I wanted to show you just a small clip, but there's a lot. I've done a lot of research into what her claims are, her platform, and things like that, so that, again, we can help those of us who are in this profession to give you some good tips, tricks on how to find a therapist, how to find somebody when you are needing help in your darkest moment. I'm going to be honest. There are a lot of red flags. If I had a flag, I'd be waving it. Red flag, red flag, red flag. Unfortunately, most of what Dr. Bryant said in that segment has no validity, right? As a licensed professional, you absolutely 127,000% have to prove to the public that you have the credentials that you say you have. Absolutely. So I'm going to tell you, how do you find it? One red flag is when she's being asked to produce the documentation, she won't, right? So this isn't just about her. I want you to think about it with any professional you're working with. If you ask to see their degree, their license, and they won't provide it, that's not a good sign, all right? All of our degrees and all of those things are easily verifiable. So I'm going to give you some steps, right? One, how can you check to see if your therapist is licensed? Every state has a governing board. I'm here in Illinois, and we have the Illinois Department of Finance and Professional Regulation. In order to call myself a licensed therapist, specifically a licensed professional counselor, which is the type of therapist I am, every 2 years, I have to show that I have gotten continued education and training. I had to document and prove that I received my degrees from an accredited institution. And they are watching me to see if there are any complaints, ethical concerns, complaints from clients and things like that. Much like with a medical doctor, you would want to know that they are a medical doctor and they haven't had any malpractice suits and things like that. So where can you look this information up? You can even just Google state license lookup and then the title that the person is saying they have. Are they an LPC? That's what I just described for myself. That stands for Licensed Professional Counselor. Are they an LMFT, a licensed marriage and family therapist, a LCSW, which is a licensed clinical worker, or a psychologist, all right? Outside of those 4 titles that I just gave you, those are the 4 mental health professionals that are licensed to engage in what we call clinical mental health counseling or private practice. What you think of when you think of therapy. 2 people sitting in a room having a conversation. And the reason this is so important is because our training, they don't just teach us how to sit in a room. Like, there's a lot of science, y'all, that goes into this. And you really have to understand that when you're sitting in the room with a person. Relatedly, we do a lot of teaching on ethics with our students, right? Because all of us, when we come into this profession, there was something about you naturally that people gravitated to. Maybe you're very understanding. Maybe you're easy to talk to. That's beautiful. We want you to keep that. And then in your training, we have to give you restraints, reel you in so that you don't hurt someone mistakenly. You don't become like an egomaniac or something crazy, right? But that's the first thing. You want to verify they have an actual license. And this is what all professionals, any profession that needs a licensed realtor, a licensed cosmetologist, a licensed barber, mental health professionals, we must have a license also. Okay. Very briefly, what's the difference in the 4 that I just named, right? I said a licensed professional counselor, a licensed marriage and family therapist, a social worker, and a psychologist. Licensed professional counselors are most known for counseling, even though all of these professions engage in counseling, but that's the lane. Licensed marriage and family therapists, they tend to have a specialization in marriage and family systems. The degree that I attained, we had a specialization where we're getting trained to be counselors, but it was called like a dual certification where we also were eligible for the LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist title as well. Social workers do the same thing, but they tend to have a more broader community-based approach, which means they're going to be great at putting you not in contact with resources and things like that exist in the community. And psychologists, again, they also provide counseling, but they also do a lot of psychological testing. So if perhaps you wanted to have neuropsychological testing to see, do I have ADHD or some other type of developmental concern, a psychologist is who you want to go with. One piece that we didn't mention is a psychiatrist, which is also a mental health professional, and that person is a medical doctor. Psychiatrists are the only mental health professionals that can prescribe medication. Okay, so if you needed something, I can't remember the popular, it just stripped my mind, the popular medications for like depression and things like that. You would first see a psychiatrist, and then you would work with one of the other mental health professionals for that one-on-one or couples or whatever counseling. So check the credentials, the license, right? Having said that, just because someone has a doctoral degree, because you don't have to have a doctorate to be a mental health professional. In my field, licensed professional counselors, you have to have a graduate degree, but you can have a master's degree and do this work too. You don't have to have a doctorate. But my warning to you is just because someone says they have a doctorate, right? Maybe they actually have a degree. This is different from license. That doesn't mean or equal that they are a licensed therapist. Some people will mislead the public because they might have a doctorate in something like, something that's completely unrelated, math, all right? But then later in life, they decide they want to be a counselor. And so the public assumes they have a doctorate in counseling or psychology or something like that. And it's completely unrelated. This comes up a lot in social media because yes, that person is entitled to call themselves doctor, right? But ethically, they should let the public know what that doctoral degree is in, right? Like I have a doctoral degree in engineering, right? But I'm now, not me literally, but maybe they have a doctoral degree in engineering and now they want to provide relationship advice. Nothing wrong with it. You can provide relationship advice, but the public should know that you're not a therapist, right? So that they can distinguish between the two. Okay, so that's one. If the person you're working with when you go to counseling is a legitimate licensed professional, you're going to see licenses on the wall. You're going to have to go through a process that we call informed consent, which lets you know what to expect, what are the risks, what are the benefits of counseling. You should, again, be able to find their license number, things of that nature. Now, red flags to watch for. This is part 2, and we saw a few of them in the clip. Somebody being vague, unclear, kind of foggy about their credentials, right? In the clip we saw, the person didn't necessarily say they were a licensed mental health professional. They just kept saying, I earned this, things like that. And that's because the people have started digging and they do not have a license. What they said in response to that is that they chose not to get a license because they wanted to be able to work broader, right? So when we have a license, we're regulated. We have rules. Like, for instance, because I'm licensed in Illinois, I cannot provide counseling to someone who lives in New York because the laws and regulations are different there. So in this instance, the social media influencer was saying that she doesn't want to have a license because she wants to be able to work with people in all states. You can work with people in all states, but then you can't call yourself a therapist. That's fraudulent and illegal. Okay? All right. So vague credentials. If you run across someone who's giving themselves like guru positioning, like I'm the all-knowing sage, that's a red flag. I just recently watched a documentary on Hulu, Nature Boy, the guru, very interesting. But anywho, they're acting like a guru. They're refusing accountability. So if you just flat right out ask, may I see your license? May I see your degree? And for whatever reason, they won't do it. Grandiosity, which is a $20 word for something simple. Are they acting bigger and better than everybody else? Usually that's a front to protect because they may not have the training and the materials that they need to do it. But if they can come off as bigger and better, people may not question them. If you ever run across a therapist who promises your guaranteed healing, right? I will get rid of your depression and anxiety in 2 weeks. I will restore your marriage. We cannot make guarantees as mental health professionals. Why? Because there's so much involved in counseling. One, we can't dictate what the client is going to do, how much work they're willing to put in, whether they're going to show up to sessions and things like that. Likewise, it's more of an art form than an exact science, right? It's not like if I do A plus B, I'm guaranteed to get C. It's more like a gumbo. I'm going to put a little A, I'm going to put a little B, and it's going to taste like C at the end, but I don't know exactly what we'll get. So beware of that. If they are diagnosing strangers online, we see this a lot. It's very popular. The big diagnosis now that everybody is giving everybody is narcissist. They're a narcissist. They're a narcissist. They're a narcissist. Narcissism is a true personality disorder and mental health issue. However, most of the people that are using it are not claiming to be therapists, and it's very difficult to diagnose someone you've never met. I was just sharing that I've been working with some clients for 6 months. It took 6 months for me to be able to clearly come up with a diagnosis of narcissism. And even then I had to get reports from family members. I had the individual do psychological testing, all kinds of things to determine if that was indeed the issue. If they oversimplify trauma, y'all, is that thing is deep, right? In fact, when I'm working with students, and someone told me this during my training, I can't remember who, but they told us when you are dealing with someone's trauma, treat that almost like holy ground. Take off your shoes and tread lightly. You don't want to go around stomping around in someone's trauma because you can re-traumatize them or you can do more harm than good. If you ever find someone humiliating their clients publicly, red flag, all right? And then lastly, if they give you the impression, and this is for whether they're licensed or not, right? These red flags, but if they give you the impression that they are the only one that can provide this type of healing, those are not good signs, okay? Point number 3, just because someone is verified, they have the credentials, they have the degree, they have the licensure, that still doesn't mean they're necessarily a good fit for working with you. When you are looking for a therapist, you want to, 1, check their credentials, make sure they have the degrees they're saying they have. Then you want to get to know them via that first session. What's their personality like? Does it match? Does it feel like a good fit? When you go in, do you feel judged or rushed by them? Same kind of way you might try to get a sense of like your medical doctor, right? And it's not just the fact that they are a licensed medical doctor. You want to get a feel for them and if it feels like a good fit for the work you're going to do, right? So that I'm saying all that just to let you know that even though a therapist can be fully licensed and degreed, they still might not be the right therapist for you. And that's okay. As licensed professionals, we know that. We prepare our students for that. And we want our clients to know that, hey, this first session is for you to see if I'm a good fit for you and for me to see if I can meet your needs, if I'm qualified to do the work and the type of services that you're looking for. And if not, that's okay. It's no hard feelings, right? Another great thing you can do is all therapists have a specialization, something they either did special training for in school. So like if you think of medical doctor, there's a difference between a pediatrician and an anesthesiologist, right? That's a specialization. Well, therapists have specializations too, and it's either through, like I said, formalized education, or sometimes we develop what we call a niche by seeing the same type of clients over and over again. So in my instance, I have a formal specialization from the university that I received both of my master's and doctoral degree. I have a formal specialization in marriage, family, and couples counseling. So if you were looking me up and you were wanting relationship counseling, you'd be able to say, oh, she has a formal specialization in that. Now, I have a niche or specialization I developed from seeing the same type of clients over and over again in working with high conflict couples experiencing things such as infidelity, betrayal, abuse. That just happened over time because I kept doing it. And so I developed specialized skill sets on the job training kind of a thing. So depending on what you're wanting therapy for, definitely look at what are they saying they specialize in, right? Some examples, some people specialize in trauma, grief, couples counseling, addictions, betrayal trauma, children and adolescents, families, things like that, okay? All right. Relatedly, if someone is a verified licensed professional, they're going to share with you their theory. A theory is something we have to adopt, right? So there's all of these, there's probably about 10 or 20 theories of how human change and growth and development happens. We pick one that resonates with our personal beliefs and values, and that's the theory we use to provide counseling. So different types of theories, you might have heard of something called CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. That's a theory. EFT, emotionally focused therapy. This is the one about attachment styles. Are you insecure, anxious, avoidant? That's a theory. Solution focused, EMDR, eye movement desensitization, that's the tapping, right? Those are theories. And so you can ask the therapist before you start working with them, what theories do you use? Especially if maybe you really want to try a particular one. Really popular is EMDR. A lot of people want to try that when it comes to trauma. So nothing wrong with asking that. And then lastly, you want to ask yourself these things for the personality relationship fit. Is this a good fit for me? 1, do I feel emotionally safe? 2, do I feel judged? 3, does this therapist listen well? 4, can they challenge me without shaming me? That's a big one. 5, do I feel seen culturally and spiritually? Your therapist, if you are a believer and you have a faith-centered focus, it doesn't matter what they believe. They could be an atheist, a Buddhist, whatever, it doesn't matter. They have to incorporate your spirituality and faith beliefs into the counseling process. So that's a big one. And then lastly, can I imagine building trust here, right? If you go in asking these questions, thinking about these things, you're going to find yourself with the right person. And then just know, even then, if you do all that and along the road, it seems like it's not a good fit, you can always just start working with somebody else. If you visit the website, www.doctor, which is just drtoyaflowers.com, I just had the bright idea that I will put these questions there so you can have them with you when you are looking for a therapist to work with. A great place, a website where you could just Google different therapists. Psychology Today, those people, we have to be vetted in order to place our advertisements there. So that's a good resource. You could go to their professional board. So I'm a counselor. Our professional board is the American Counseling Association. You can look for them there, or you can go through your insurance if perhaps you're going to use that. Let's see. The last piece that I really want to touch on is, so in the case of the clip we saw, that person isn't licensed, and it turns out they actually don't have a doctoral degree either. They went on to explain in more recent interviews, because this thing is unfolding in real time, y'all. If you look this up on social media, every hour there's a new development. But it turns out the university they were allegedly attending, they never actually received the doctoral degree. And their claim was that the university did close, which the university they named did in fact close, but that did not prevent people from getting a degree. If you completed all of your licensure, not all of your licensure, all of your coursework, because universities close all the time. This is not uncommon in my field in academia, right? As a professor, they close all the time, but a student is never penalized. If you completed all of your coursework, you will receive a degree. Relatedly, you can look up anybody's degree, especially a doctoral degree, because we have to do something called a dissertation. A dissertation is like a long, grueling, it's almost like a book about a topic that you're interested in, and you have to present that to your peers, the gatekeepers, so that they can say, yes, this person is mentally sound and fit enough to receive this degree. Dissertations are public information. You can look up any person who has a doctorate, you can look up what their dissertation was about. And if they don't have one, it's very likely they're not an actual doctor. This isn't always the case. There is one type of specialty where they don't do dissertations, but you still should be able to see the degree, right? So in this case, those are all red flags. If they wanted my 2 cents, which nobody asked for, I would suggest that Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, y'all know I do petty, professional, prophetic. It's time to produce the receipts. If you have a degree, we all have it. Not only if you have the degree, you don't have to, it's not like I got to go look it up online to prove to someone that I am who I say I am. I have one hanging at home. It would take a matter of a second to just show it and put this to bed. But she has gone on to state that she can, and her rationales because university closed. That university has come out and said that's not true, and that they have records for every student that they've ever had. Relatedly, these are just red flags, right? So I'm grateful that it happened, because it allowed us to have this very, very important conversation. So I'm always on here telling you how important it is to address your faith and mental health, but I want you to do so in a way that is safe and ethical and non-fraudulent for you. So just remember, it's okay to get your information from social media. There's a difference between an influencer, a coach, who often also doesn't need a license or degree, versus a therapist or mental health professional, right? And you might want to get help from all three, but just know it's only that licensed mental health professional who is regulated by the government, meaning that if they do something that is unsafe or unethical to you, they're going to pay a very big cost, right? I hope that, this is my last thing, then we're going to get out of here. This piece about as a professional only having to give an account to God, right? And not having to prove your credentials and things like that. Just wanted to back that up with scripture, right? So we're going to go to Romans 13, 1-3. And it says, everyone must submit to governing authorities. For all authority comes from God. Those in positions of authority have been placed there by God. So anyone who rebels against authority is rebelling against what God has instituted and will be punished. For the authorities do not strike fear in people who are doing right, but in those who are doing wrong. Would you like to live without fear of authorities? Do what is right, and that will honor you. Thank you so much for tuning in to You Plant. Can y'all see this?
Yeah.
We water, and God gives the increase.